Hello, welcome back. It is that time of year again, folks. On Out on That Line, we are doing our year-end podcast. It is the best and the worst of 2025. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how you doing this week?
Hogs will be cranked for the last time in 2025, folks. Ours and yours. How am I doing? I couldn't be any better. If I were a pagan shit, I would be subsequent to how I'm feeling right now. Here's God, here's humans, here's me, baby. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Excited for this episode as always. So we're going to do a fairly similar structure to what we normally do, but we kind of tweaked it a little bit, and in an effort to, I think, increase a little bit more of the conversation instead of just kind of listing off bullet points about the things that we chose and then little tiny blurbs about them, doing more of, kind of generally talking about what we considered. You can consider them nominees in some cases, and then ultimately the things that we chose. So we're going to do the same categories that we generally do. So we've kind of got the best and worst of multiple categories here. So I'm excited to do it this way. I'm hoping that it works out the way that I'm planning. I think it will. I have faith that it will, and that this will be a great way to cap off the end of the year. Do you have any thoughts about this year in general, Alex?
It was an interesting year. In looking through the stuff that we covered this time around, it somehow felt like we like missed a bunch of weeks or like didn't cover as much. And then I realized I was only looking at our albums that are categorized as like track something or other. We did a lot more on the records. We did a lot more like one-off stuff. And I think that speaks to it being a year where there weren't necessarily, it's funny to say this phrase, explosive releases. I've had one or two of those in my day. Let the imagination wander. But there wasn't necessarily, correct me if I'm wrong, but at least on my radar, there wasn't something that I knew was coming that I was salivating over. There really wasn't. There were precious few things that kicked my door down and said, "What do you think of these?" and surprised me with something. I remember this was a year where I think we were wanting for a little more. So the things that really stood out as excellent, and I think is going to be reflected in the show tonight. There are years where there's like an embarrassment of riches, and there are some years that are just goddamn embarrassment. I think we're sitting somewhere in the middle, but like you said, the format tweak I think is going to really help us clarify like what were those special diamonds in the rough this year. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yes, and what do you say we get right into it? So we're going to go kind of the way we list our categories. We're going to do what you consider the, I guess, smaller ones. We'll do those first, and we'll work our way up to kind of the best albums, the reason that we're all here in the first place on this podcast every week. So we'll start with, I'm going to go ahead and we'll start out hot, and I'm going to say Con Artist. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a repeat winner in your corner over there, Alex. Who do you have?
Well,
Con Artist of the Year.
Well, I have two nominees. So yeah, like we said, we're going to list off our nominees, and we'll give a little bit of an explainer. So I have two Con Artist nominees this year. The first one being Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift will probably never, ever, ever make it off this list, to the point where I think we might want to call it the Taylor Swift Con Artist of the Year award. She is a perennial favorite. For me, it extends beyond just like creative bankruptcy. It's the greed, the constant bilking of the fans. And if you want to be like, well, from the top down, Taylor doesn't decide that we should make 18 variants of the thing. Like, that's not really a Taylor decision. It's like, well, she's aware that it's happening. It is in the discourse. There is no reason other than corporate greed that you make 18 different versions of the album. Is it wrong? Is it immoral? No, not really. But it's greedy as fuck. You know exactly what you're doing. And there are people who will shell out for it. And what are they getting? Oh, I've promised you like 9 demo tracks. Surprise, there's only 3. And you spent $28 on this one version, and there's 9 others. So I will forever consider like that until she stops doing that. Instant con credentials. She'll make this list every year. So Taylor, you're on notice. But who was the con artist of the year for me? Zanaya Monet, The Velvet Sundown, Teddy Swims, and everybody else under the banner of the AI slop phenomenon.
That is a very good pick. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you for all of the same reasons about Miss Swift. I think it's a monetization of an art form in a way that, it's like, more power to you if you can get people to commit like that to your brand. And that's what it is at this point. It's a brand. I wouldn't even really say that it's art anymore. There's going to be more that I talk about specifically regarding this artist as we go along in this podcast, as we cap off the year. But yeah, for all the same reasons. So I won't go into a huge tirade about my own, because I'll just be repeating what you were saying. I think it was a horrendous display this year and every year when she pulls those sort of stunts. And the AI stuff, I can't imagine, if you want to be taken seriously as an artist, which another word for artist is a creator, if somebody else or something else is doing that creating for you. Now I suppose you can say there's a fine line between, inspiration and copying. There's a fine line between inspiration and plagiarism, I guess. The line, it's very clear to me when AI is the thing trying to serve as the inspiration, because if it's not coming from you organically, if it's not coming from a real place, if all it is for you just felt like making a silly, stupid song, but you created that. It might be the worst song of all time, but that was still out of your brain, a human being, and maybe you used computers to create it, like programs and made beats and things like that. Maybe some of that stuff gets automated, like playing to click tracks and things like that. So there's assists that you can do. You're crossing a line when you're having AI just listen to something you just did, make several different versions of it so you don't have to. It's really, really gross.
And trying to pass off these big ones, like Zanaya Monet I think she charted on Billboard. Why am I saying she? It's a fucking computer. I think it charted. That's insidious, the fact that I treated this like a person for a minute. And that's the thing, is you can tell the difference when you're listening to it. Like, you listen to this and you can tell when it's off. The only person in the world who doesn't give a fuck is Joe Rogan. He's like, oh, I found some like soul version of 50 Cent. And let me tell you something. If this came out today, it would be the biggest thing. I'm like, you have cooked your brain with marijuana and gorilla testosterone, my friend. You got to check out. But I think I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't been entertained by something AI made. Like, I have to be honest. There is a YouTube channel called Obscurest Vinyl, and they make obvious parody. Like, I glued my balls to my butthole again.
Yeah.
You look like you could use a fucking lamp, and it's like, AI didn't come up with all those lyrics. Someone had to feed that into it. So you didn't make the music, but you gave shape to something funny that I'm not even like, it's high art, it's hilarious. It's just it's entertaining. It's as entertaining as any other entertaining thing you've ever done while taking a shit. But I think on a widespread scale, it's never going to replace human creativity. Anyone that's worried about that, don't worry. It will never, ever be able to replicate it. It's just shit.
No, it really just can't. But into more exciting news, and I am excited to talk about this one a little bit here, is the next category of Breakout Artist of the Year. So this, I always felt like can be, it can be somebody we talked about on the pod. Generally happens to be for me, because that makes up the bulk of what I usually listen to in a given year, is stuff that we talk about on the pod. There's just only time for so much. But it's something that I think every year whoever it is that we choose as the breakout artist, it seems to be that they are a recurring topic on the show. So for that reason, I'm excited to see what these artists are going to do for us in the future. So for breakout artists, Alex, who did you have for this year?
I had. Can you hear me? My microphone. I just muted it and unmuted it.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. We're on the right track, gang.
Yeah.
I had 3 nominees. Someone we didn't do on the show, Olivia Dean, Come Be the Man I Need, taking over social media, taking over the world. And looks interesting. I think whether or not you and I do that album or if I do like a solo review, I think it's something I got to check out. The second person is Charlie Crockett.
Mm-hmm.
He had a breakout year in my life anyway. I hadn't really listened to any Charlie Crockett prior to Dollar a Day. And so even personally, it's a breakout year, but I think in general, in like the general consciousness, great year for him. And I also had Geese / Cameron Winter really kind of exploding onto the scene in a big way. That is my pick. I just think that I've seen a lot of the discourse surrounding Geese where people are like, it's overhyped, it's overrated. And I will say there is a real danger of that if that music is being kind of proselytized by the wrong hands.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let people force Geese down your throat. You got to find Geese. You got to sit with Geese. Give Geese a chance. I really think that the more people check this out, I think the more they'll come to understand why this was one of the freshest things that came out this year while being recognizable. It's not something totally off the wall, but I think it challenged a lot of people and it garnered them a lot of fans.
Yeah. And I think they're a very good pick for this category for you. I think that's a good pull. For me, the breakout artist, so one that I chose was Turnstile. Now, this was not a personal breakout artist for me because I've been very aware of Turnstile for a few years now, but I think generally into the musical consciousness, this was the really big breakout year for Turnstile. I think their tour was massive, got tons of hype. They played every single late night show you can think of. They were playing, either headlining or second billing at almost every festival they played. So like they had a huge year. Personally, for me, breakout artist, and maybe commercially you can say too, but I don't think commercially they were, but The Last Dinner Party was a very pleasant surprise for me this year. I look back, we did 2 albums by them this year. There's one we caught right at the beginning of the year, and then the one we did pretty recently. And then my pick for the breakout artist of the year is also Geese. I chose them for a lot of the same reasons you did, and I have the same worries that you do about them becoming hyped. It's like it's not hype music. You know what I mean? It's not like put this on at a party kind of music. Well, I guess depending on what kind of party it is, but for the most part, not going to be a like put it on at a party music. That's you're spending a day by yourself, maybe walking around your neighborhood, walking around like a downtown area, something like that, or you're just sitting around in the house. That's the album you listen to at that time. So to have it be like you said, to try to say that people have to go listen to it, it's like, no, you have to go listen to it when you're in the right mood, but you do owe it to yourself to check out Geese. Very much looking forward to what they do in the future. Hopefully it's a situation where, I don't know why King Giz popped in my head because I don't think they need to get that crazy, but hopefully there's like some real stretching of some boundaries, or at least Cameron Winter does some side projects that really, go into some other things too. But I think Geese, consensus breakout artist of the year for us. Funny, we did not align on the other choices or other nominees, but the one that we aligned on is the one we both picked.
We found our way to the most correct conclusion in the end.
We did. And then the next category, this is going to be the album that aged like bread. Now, for me, this honestly was kind of a tough thing to pick, and I feel like the album that I chose for this probably deserves this the least of any album I've ever chosen for this category, and it's going to be Who Will Look After the Dogs by Pup.
Interesting.
And the reason for it is, one, I was very excited for it because I've loved basically everything else that Pup has done. The Unraveling of Pup the Band, the album that we did a couple of years ago on the show at this point, was a really, really good album, really fun album. You know, I love everything they've done up to that point. This album, and I kept going back to it because I'm like, maybe I'm just not getting it yet. And I kept going back to it, and I kept liking it less and less. So it just got staler and staler by the day. And so for me, that was the choice.
See, and I almost put it on my list of nominees, and then I realized I haven't even been back to it.
Yeah.
So it would be unfair to be like, well, this aged like bread. It's like, well, right now, it's just a little mother dough. It's just sitting there. I haven't seen its bread potential yet. I had 3 nominees. I had, and keeping in mind, these first 2, I still like, but upon subsequent revisits, were not as strong. And my enthusiasm diminished just a little. Japanese Breakfast for Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women.
Mm-hmm.
David Byrne, Who is the Sky. I really love some select tracks off that, but as a whole, it hit a point of diminishing returns. And when you say it's this category for you, that like Pup was the least deserving person to ever get this award, I won't call this person my least deserving, because they deserve this, but not in an angry way. It's just a fact of life. But this is someone who's got a lot of capital with me. I'll always check in on what she's doing. I will always take the house tour. Sabrina Carpenter, Man's Best Friend. It does not hold up. It really, like, I was actually very excited when that album came out. I really like Short and Sweet. I really like Short and Sweet Deluxe. I was excited for Man's Best Friend, and it just didn't come together. There were too many like weird production choices and like kind of songwriting that prioritized shock jock slutty stuff over like real credible songwriting. It was messy. It was like occasionally interesting in points, but it was mostly forgettable, mostly incoherent. So Sabrina Carpenter, Man's Best Friend, album that aged like bread, 2025.
That's I think that's a very fair pick. I think for that one, I was really not enthusiastic about it to start with, and I think I wasn't very excited about it. So it landed like with a thud and just kind of stayed that way for me. So it didn't really age any sort of way, because again, like it was for you with Pup, I just never went back to it. Let's do it once. It was like a fart in the wind.
There you go.
It was here, and then she was gone.
That'll be her next album.
Now, the album that aged like wine. Now, for me, I had nominees, but there was really just one pick on this one for me, and it was $1 a Day by Charlie Crockett. I liked it. I mean, we can probably go back to the episode where I was super excited about this album. Anyway, the first time I listened to it, first time we talked about it, it only got better as the year went on. You get your favorites when you listen to an album a few times, like we do for the show. But when you listen to an album, when you pump that baby like a dozen times, getting up to like 15, 20 times, like you start to get you get those little intricacies, you get your favorites. Like $1 a Day by Charlie Crockett, every time I listen to it, it gets better. That's my pick.
I think that's a strong pick. I will co-sign that. I haven't listened to it as much as you have, clearly. Not for anything other than there was a lot of stuff that came up at the end of the year where I'm like, I gotta get caught up, especially for the episode we just did about like end of the year catch up. So he has suffered from an inadequate amount of re-listens, not of his own fault. So I think that's a strong pick. I am trying not to sneeze. For an album that aged like wine, 2025, I had 3 nominees: Viagra Boys, Dropkick Murphys, For the People. Have listened to that a bunch, and it's a lot stronger than.
It's better than it deserved to be, or you expected it to be, for sure.
Better than it deserved, expected, or you remember it to be.
Yeah.
It's just a solid thing. But the one that won for me was Haley Williams, Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party.
Okay.
That one, friend of the pod, Brandon, is obsessed and was sending all of these clips and interviews, and it just made me take like a second look at the album, and then a third look at the album, and then a fourth. And I just like, the more I sat with it, I was like, this is such a Matt Reno rock solid album.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go ahead and pin a blue ribbon on it and say like genius, but it really, really grew on me. And the songwriting shines through a lot more on like subsequent meditations.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah, fantastic choice. And then the biggest surprise of the year for you, who'd you have, Alex?
Mine, I had 3 nominees: Geese, Getting Killed; Turnstile, Never Enough; and for my third pick, me squashing my beef with Jelly Roll. Were the 3 biggest musical surprises of this year. Now, surprisingly, me squashing my beef with Jelly Roll did not win. I have
That
selected.
is surprising. Because since that happened, I don't know why you even had any other nominees.
But yet it wasn't my pick. I think it's a testament to how much I've grown as a person. But why should that be a surprise? I think anyone that watches this show knows that I am of the utmost moral character. I'm someone that the kids can look up to. If I can forgive Jelly Roll for being himself, which is seemingly a very nice, very sincere guy whose music is just fucking disaster. It's dog shit. It's absolute dog's dinner. But he seems like a nice enough dude. So are people surprised that I could be the bigger man next to Jelly Roll? But my biggest surprise
he's
was
on that.
Turnstile.
He's on that Ozempic.
He's on the Ozempic hard. Good for him. Good for him. Don't take it too far, Roll. Turnstile, Never Enough was my biggest surprise. I knew of them. I liked the stuff you had me listen to, but I wasn't expecting Never Enough to blow me away the way it did.
That was a very special album for the genre of like punk and hardcore and indie rock in general. I think it bridged a lot of gaps that the Turnstile concerts were full of a lot of different kinds of people. And that's why they were such a good time. I think it's just a really, really special moment in music. If you get a chance to go see Turnstile, folks, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. Now, Alex, your biggest disappointment of the year. Let's bring the mood back down here. We were getting too high.
Did you say your biggest surprise?
You know what? I didn't. And that's not a surprise that I would skip a category like that.
What a twist.
What a twist. Well, my biggest surprise, I had, really 3 nominees, 2 winners. I have a tie for the winner. So the 3 nominees was Charlie Crockett, The Last Dinner Party, and Geese. And Geese for Getting Killed, Charlie Crockett for $1 a Day, and then Last Dinner Party for Dose Albums. So the ties for the winner, the 3rd place award goes to Charlie Crockett on this one, the biggest surprise. I think just because I was already kind of aware of him, hadn't really gotten very deep at all into him. If I'd really listened to him at all, I don't think I had. The tie for the biggest surprise for me was Last Dinner Party and Geese, because I had never listened to anything like either of them and thought they were both brilliant. Now, the first Last Dinner Party album we did, I thought was better than the second one, but I thought they were both excellent. The Geese album, probably we're going to glaze as we go along here. That one, to me, those 2 artists this year kicked the door in probably the most of any artist for me. And now we can get to biggest disappointment. So who'd you have for this one, Alex?
I had 3 nominees for biggest disappointment. FKA Twigs, Eusexia. Having never listened to Twigs before, I guess I didn't know what to expect. For some reason, I think I got Twigs and Her, H-E-R, Her. I don't. I never heard it pronounced. I don't know which way. I think it's just Her.
I think it is.
I hope so. I got it in my head because Her is supposed to be kind of a nasty guitar player. And for some reason, I assigned that
Yes.
to Twigs. And I was like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to hear her shred. And then it was just like, you know, it, like, in that genre that just continues to elude me, the dance electro pop album. So it was disappointment of my own making. It's not really Twigs' fault, but disappointed nonetheless. Tyler Childers' Snipe Hunter. I wanted that to be better.
I was wondering if this was going to make your list there.
It made the list. I wanted it to be better. I love Tyler Childers. It was not dog shit. I wouldn't even say it was weak. It just doesn't rise to the level of my favorite stuff that he's done. But my winner for biggest disappointment, Tame Impala, Deadbeat. That album was so fucking disappointing. We did that episode on the Slow Rush. I love that album. We were both positive about it. And I waited and waited. You made me wait 5 years for this. Fuck you.
That, to me, yeah, that was one of my nominees, was the Tame Impala. So, kind of just, I scroll through and just remind myself sometimes of the things that we've done, the albums we've done. When I hit that one, I was like, ugh. I remember how bad that was. It was just so boring. Like,
so
that's
boring.
the thing is, and I don't remember necessarily that the production was terrible. I really never went back to it, but there was just nothing in that album. It was just nothing special. There was nothing novel like you'd heard from him before. It was just very, very disappointing. I completely agree with you on that. But my winner for the biggest disappointment is the Who Is the Sky album by David Byrne.
Whoa.
Yes. So to me, I love Talking Heads. And I've liked a decent amount of David Byrne's like solo stuff, and I guess you could say a lot of Talking Heads is basically David Byrne solo stuff, or he would have you believe, anyways. I was really looking forward to just hearing something I really liked from him again, and I just didn't. That album to me, it just sounded like a mess. It felt like a mess. Lyrically, it was a mess, and I just really felt let down, in particular by that album this year.
I can see that. So, a lot of solo David Byrne. It's hard to take. The difference for me being, Talking Heads, all that music had to be written for the parts and the players that you had available. So, like, you have to remember Tina Weymouth is playing the bass, and so you have to write bass parts, and you have to write them in her style, and you have to kind of arrange towards that style and those capabilities. So for a while, there were kind of like bumpers on David Byrne, I think, that were good ones. Also younger, a little more vitality, a little less rumination on mortality. This is just like David Byrne fully unleashed. Just like I'm not trying to be offensive when I say it's autism unleashed, but it is him really just like exploring these like very, very specific niche interesting things, but not always done in an interesting way. Like, she explains things to me. The song about like when I don't know what's going on in a movie, she kind of helps me figure it out.
God, I hated that song.
Terrible.
God.
Terrible song. My Apartment Is My Friend is catchy as hell, but it's terrible. It's a song. It's literally about his apartment and how much he loves it. So it's a very squeaky, clean, modern sound. It doesn't have kind of the darkness, and even like the light, bouncy Talking Heads had that like sweaty underground. It has the same aesthetic as the Stop Making Sense movie. And now it's just like so clean and so polished. It loses a little bit of something in translation. I can understand why you were disappointed. I think I talked myself into being a little disappointed.
Yes. It was successful then.
Disappointment spreads.
Yes.
I'm sorry, David. I love you.